Welcome back to episode 6 of The Language of Abuse, the series where we aim to put some clarity behind some of the most commonly used and misused words in the modern mental health space. My name is Lawrence James. Now, last time we spoke about gaslighting. That's the systematic erosion of your self-confidence with the goal of convincing you that your whole perception of reality is wrong. But on this episode, we're going to talk about one of the control techniques that involves bringing a third party into your relationship. All right, so let's talk about what triangulation is, why abusers even do it, and then I've got a visual as well I want to show you at the end. Simply put, triangulation is when a third party or an authority is brought into a conflict or into your relationship in some way, not necessarily physically, they're not there for a party, to maintain control, to maintain stability, or to shift power back to the abuser. I was helping a mate of mine through a toxic breakup that he was going through. He told me at the time that he and his girlfriend at the time were staying in a hotel, and as they're leaving, she makes a big deal of flirting with the guy playing the piano in the lobby. And of course, this gets a lot of attention, right? A lot of positive attention from the dude playing the piano and a lot of negative attention from my mate, who then brings this up with her later on. And this is a classic example of triangulation where a third party is being used to get attention, to maintain their control, to resolve, or to cause a conflict in a relationship as well. So there's a number of reasons as to why an abuser would bring a third party or an authority into your relationship. The first is to destabilize it. They want to cause paranoia. They want you to be seeing the world through this lens of everyone's out to get me. You're not safe. You're on the edge of your seat. Classic example within like a toxic household is where siblings are pitted against each other. The parent will compare each child to each other, right? Tell one sibling that your sister doesn't trust you with secrets. She thinks you're careless. She thinks you're this. She thinks you're that. And then, of course, that sibling starts to look upon the sister with this veil of skepticism. All of her actions, everything that she does now is seen as, she's out to get me. She's trying to trick me somehow. Mum told me. The authority told me. Creating rivalry for the abuser's affections as well, just like my mate with his girlfriend's flirting with the piano player. Now he has to compete with this dude to win his girlfriend's affections, when really the girlfriend should have eyes only for her boyfriend. No. But yet she's now flirting with this piano playing dude. And the third is that it can trigger what's called separation anxiety, which is this fear that something or someone is going to go away. Again, this is why episode 2 was on dependency. Something that you depend on is something that you need. Something that you need is something that you can't live without. And if that thing that you can't live without is a person, then if that person, or you feel that that person is going to go away, that they're going to leave, then your sense of safety, your sense of purpose, your sense of feeling okay is going to be put under immediate threat. All right, you're going to start to fear them leaving and doing anything that you think you need to do to keep them, okay? Because there's always this fear that feeling of being safe, that feeling of being somebody, your very identity being attached to abusers is at risk, is being threatened whenever somebody else is being brought in. Think about the ex-boyfriend or the ex-girlfriend. You're in a relationship with somebody and it was a whirlwind of wonder at the beginning, and you guys got together, and now it's just you and me against the world. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, why is she mentioning John? Why does she keep bringing John up? Why does he keep bringing Sarah up? You know, why does he keep talking about his ex-girlfriend? Why is it because it's going to trigger this all of these three things at the same time. It's going to destabilize your relationship. It's going to put you on edge immediately and make you paranoid or worried that the ex-boyfriend or the ex-girlfriend has a chance of taking them back. That's going to trigger your separation anxiety. It's going to trigger that fear of losing your safe and secure relationship. Your sense of being someone and having a purposeful, meaningful relationship with somebody is now at risk because the ex-boyfriend is coming into it. And that's going to create rivalry between you and the X. And you're then going to start to compare yourself with them and be pushed into action. Be that being better, being more obedient, doing what they tell you to do, and of course, making you easier to control. And you can imagine it a little bit like this, where we had this node-like relationship between you and your partner, boss, parent, whatever. And this relationship, if we're being honest, is most likely to be quite codependent. They're looking at you for something, for attention, for affection, for admiration or applause. They're looking for you to support their life in some way, their physical life or their physical needs. Maybe they're there to coerce you into taking responsibility for their emotions. Either way, they need that from you. And the target in these positions typically attaches their sense of safety and salvation and their sense of self-worth to the other person as well. In other words, they need to be needed. Triangulation adds in the third party, and you can see now where the narcissists or the psychopath or the abuser in this node network here now has two arrows coming from them. They're looking at you and getting attention, affection, energy, or what they need from you, but they're also now getting it from somebody else, or how so it seems. And you, as the party who needs to be needed, who has that sense of security and salvation and purpose wrapped up in the relationship, those are the bonds that are formed at the beginning of emotionally abusive relationships. Now, all of a sudden, you are needed less. So you can see there how that's going to trigger out the separation anxiety, how that over time, if this individual is bringing in a third party, and it doesn't have to be a person, it can be an authority, it can be a doctor, for example. Oh, my doctor says this, my doctor says that, I'm not going to do this, or I'm going to treat you this way. And perhaps the most pernicious example is my therapist. I go to therapy and my therapist says that you do this or you do that, or that you do this thing wrong or that thing wrong. And then, of course, there's the rivalry. So they're getting what they need from their therapist. They're not relying on you. They don't need you as much. It's causing the separation anxiety because the more therapy that they get, the better and more independent they're going to be and less need they have for you. And then it's got the rivalry in there as well, that you're now having to compete for their attention and their affection, their energy against a authority figure, against the therapist. And you're then going to attempt to probably conform to whatever the therapist demands you be, because that's what the narcissist, psychopath, abuser needs from you. Okay? My therapist says that you are being too demanding of me. What are you going to do with that piece of information, right? Other than the therapist says so. So I must be. And therefore, I must be less demanding of you and conform and bow down to your every whim. And this one is actually pretty simple, but you need to understand it because it is subtle. It's very, very subtle, the feelings that come into play when a third party is introduced, because it can be added in so casually into conversation. It can be brought in, like a third party or an ex or a therapist or whoever can be brought into a conflict or a disagreement that you're having, which rests with you and your partner, and this person can be brought in, and it's very, very subtle that the purpose of it is to deliberately instill paranoia. It is to destabilize the relationship, cause separation anxiety, cause you to feel a sense of rivalry with that third person or a sense of obedience underneath that third person, should it be an authority like a therapist, and then compete for approval. Compete with the third party to get the abuser's soul, focus, energy, and attention, because that's what you're giving them. You're giving them everything. And when you don't get everything in return because somebody else is being brought in and their attention is now divided to somebody else, then that is going to cause you to cling desperately to them from the separation anxiety and compete for their approval. So that's the definition. That's it, guys. If you like this one, do give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and do ask any questions you have as well around triangulation in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them there. But if you're ready for the next one, we're talking about why you're always feeling like the guilty party in the next video. So go ahead and click the next video up here. We're talking about projection, and I'll see you over there in just a couple of minutes.